So let's look at what a normal personality looks like. So here's a visual to kind of give you an idea. You can see with our circle there that the personality has a multitude of diverse traits. Most normal personalities have that. And this allows the individual to be very flexible and adaptable and adjust their responses in a way that lets them achieve, more positive than negative consequences, given the fact that things are changing, there's demands, there's requirements of different situations in life. And so a normal personality has all of these characteristics, all these traits in there, and we just pick and choose, obviously not consciously, what would work to adjust ourselves to whatever the circumstances are. And a lot of times, it doesn't mean we don't have emotions about it. It doesn't mean we don't get frustrated, but we are able to adjust ourselves to whatever the circumstances are. The second part of a normal personality is an observing ego. So this observing ego allows us to self-monitor and self-correct as things happen. And it gives us the ability to correct ourselves and adjust our responses in order to produce a positive consequence, okay, or a positive outcome. So it allows us to reflect on ourselves and say, you know what, I should probably not have said that to so-and-so last week. I'm going to go back and apologize and take responsibility for that. And then I'm going to learn from what I did so that I hopefully don't make that mistake again. And that's a reasonably normal personality. Most everybody who runs on that spectrum of, quote, normal can do that. But when we look at the disordered personality, there's only one trait in that personality that's specific to the personality disorder. So borderline will have a specific trait, antisocial has a specific trait. But so what happens with this one trait is that you find this individual doing the same thing over and over and over, regardless of whether or not that's an appropriate thing to do for the situation. Okay. There's no learning from mistakes. There's no, I did this last week and it didn't work, so now I'm going to do something different. And what results, of course, is many more negative consequences are created, none of which they're aware of. Okay, or at least digesting. And that's because there's no observing ego. So personality disordered individuals lack the self-monitoring. They lack the self-corrective capacity. And so they're unable to alter their responses to have a better outcome. And they don't realize that their own behavior is the cause of the distress. So what about borderline trait? We'll get to that. Just hold on. I'm going to go through all of them. So that's what happens. They just don't even realize that their behavior is the cause of the distress. The only way you know if your behavior is the cause of the distress is if you're able to have an observing ego and say, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. Maybe that was the cause of why somebody yelled at me at the restaurant the other day. Not able to do that makes it much more difficult than to adjust your behavior because you don't think there is anything wrong with your behavior. So the normal personality is flexible, adaptable, adjustable, assesses the situation, and can make decisions about what's going to work best the next time. Disordered personality is what I just talked about. So it's the drama, the lack of self-corrective capacity, that disables the person's ability to adequately assess the situation or to alter their reactions, to get a good consequence. And this results in their behavior being inappropriate. And then in the situation, it creates escalation, upset, and additional problems. And we're going to refer to this as drama. So keep that in mind as we move along, problem solving and drama. So when I'm talking with my clients who might be in relationships with individuals who are personality disordered, I frequently use the term drama. Don't get into the drama with the person. anytime you're going into a situation where you start feeling uncomfortable, you've stepped into drama. Okay, that's because there's no problem solving going on. And I'll elaborate in the next slide here. So the Karpman drama triangle, I use this all the time. I use it with my clients. I use it when I do my presentations. This was a theory developed by Stephen Karpman back in 1968, and he was discussing essentially what his view of dysfunctional role play looks like within families. So we can use this obviously with anybody in situations where there's no problem solving going on. So in personality disordered people, because they dramatize instead of problem solve, they will, there's a reason or a purpose for their drama. And so the reason or the purpose is to protect and validate their fragile identity. Okay, they don't have a solid idea of who they are because they can't reflect, and because everybody else is going to make is going to do the validation and the affirmation for them. So they will avoid this internal emptiness, which is due to this trait deficiency that we talked about when we're talking about the personality disorder, or the personality disordered personality. And in order to do this, to distract from the pain of this emptiness, they'll jump around to these different roles that they play and use this as a justification for their own behavior. So what happened? So the process looks like this. Someone comes across to others as helpful. Okay, so that would be the rescuer role, or corrective, which is the persecutor role, or hurt, which is the victim role. And other people who are engaging with the individual adopt a corresponding position. So if a personality disordered individual is a rescuer, then the other person is probably the victim. So what happens with the personality disordered individual is that they then perform a psychological switch that changes their position to one of the other positions. So they move from rescuer to persecutor, or rescuer to victim, or persecutor to rescuer. This switch then upsets and confuses the people who are engaging with them, and who then, these people who are upset and confused, will then switch to another position as well. All of this upset and confusion creates additional problems, but it validates for the disordered person the position that they're right. Okay. So they're jumping around. So the idea I want you to kind of take with you is, in a situation where you're dealing with a personality disordered individual, they will be in one of these drama roles: persecutor, victim, rescuer. They'll jump around depending on the situation because they're protecting their ego and their fragile identity. And they'll jump around. There's no purpose to resolution. All it is kind of jumping around, whack-a-mole, essentially, back and forth throughout the course of however long the other individual is willing to go on with it. So it can go for 2 seconds, it can go for 20 minutes, it can go for days or years, depending on what it is. So that's what it looks like, exactly like a chameleon. Absolutely. So all of the positions in the drama, though, are hypocritical, right? The rescuer looks like a good person, but is actually demeaning and devaluing of other people. The persecutor looks justified, but is actually inflicting pain onto other people. The victim looks mistreated, but it's actually denying all responsibility and making everybody else a bad guy. So this is the sort of stuff that you're going to find, number one, when you're working with individuals or family members or partners, and also what the personality disordered individual is going to try to do with you as the clinician. Okay, that's why I'm talking about it. So you can be prepared that they're going to try this drama triangle with you. Of course, they don't know they're doing this. This is something that this is how they interact. But this is something we need to look out for. So we'll be talking a little bit more about the drama switch as we move along with each individual problem. So bottom line, a psychiatric disorder is a malfunction in a psychological system. A personality disorder is a deficiency in core personality functions. That's the way I want you to look at it. It's not a malfunction in the psychological system of the person. It's a deficiency in the personality.